The Opinion Line on Cork's 96 FM.
Now, earlier this year, Easter Sunday, there was drama. A very quiet Easter Sunday. Jim O'Kelly in Killavullen didn't feel too well. And all of a sudden, he began to feel very not well at all. And he got his wife to ring 999. Jim is 68. And the first responder on duty that evening was a man called Edward Walsh. And Edward, I think he was going to go to bed early that night. But he decided, oh God, he got a message, hit the car, got the air code, and realised he's on the way to look after his friend. So Jim and Edward are both with me now. Good morning, lads.
Good morning.
Jim, I'll start with you. How are you now?
I'm very good. I'm getting great care and attention, and I'm doing good.
Take me back to that evening. When did you first know that something wasn't right?
Well, it was the Easter Sunday night. We had dinner and we sat down to watch TV, and I just wasn't feeling quite right, and I thought I had indigestion, because sometimes I suffer a little bit from indigestion. So I took a tablet and I sat down again, and I knew things were not going right. And my wife says, I'm calling an ambulance. Right. And I said, God's sake, it's Easter Sunday night, don't be ringing anybody this hour of the night, right? Mm-hmm. Stupid stuff. So she did ring, and I actually, over the next 15 minutes, got very worse. Pains across my chest, pains down my arm, and that. And I basically knew I was in trouble.
That's frightening.
Sorry?
That's frightening.
It was frightening, it really was. And I knew nothing more. I was actually going to go to bed, and Edward told me later that if I had gone to bed, there's a good chance that I would not have woken up.
Wow. Let's bring Edward in at that point. Jim, Edward, you were planning an early night, and you got how do first responders get alerts?
So it was, as you said, I was right. I was going to go to bed early. It was a busy Easter Sunday with my 2-year-old who was eating chocolate galore, and she was running around the house. So very tiresome day.
A chocolate high, God bless you.
A chocolate high, yeah. But that particular night, I decided myself and my wife go to bed early, and knowing full well that the mom would be up the following morning in running around, that my phone buzzed. As a first responder, volunteer first responder, we have a certain amount of numbers that we have attached from the National Ambulance Service. And like all of us who do first responding voluntary, we all have a special text tone, so that when the phone goes off, we know that it is not just your normal text message from somebody. This could be a serious call. And that particular night, I had my phone face down, and the phone buzzed, and like that, I was tired, but I said I'd have a quick look to see what the call was, and a call came in, unknown to me, for a 68-year-old gentleman who was having chest pain and discomfort, and we see a kind of a text number on it, and it kind of gives it the severity of what was going on. I looked over to my wife, who said, I think you should go. This sounds serious. And like you said earlier, I got up, got dressed again, and got into my vehicle then and started making my way into Jim's house.
Yeah, and it was when you put the air code in, was it, you realised that you were on your way to Jim?
Yeah, so like that, as I was making my way down, I kind of contacted the National Ambulance Service to tell them that I was on the way. To at least inform them that there was a first responder, because as I say, an ambulance was dispatched, but I may have been a bit closer. So like that, rang them, put the air code in then to the phone in the car, to realise when the picture of the house that popped up in the Killavullen area is actually someone who I knew. And then that kind of changes everything then, because 99% of the time we could be going out to someone who we don't know. Yeah. We might know the general area. But obviously when you're going out to someone, then you do know, it starts then to become a little bit more personal. Yeah. And your train of thought, insights turn going, what am I going to walk into, and am I going to be able to handle the scene and take out the personal relationship that I would have with Jim?
Which you have to do. Jim, do you remember him walking in on you? Do you remember what happened?
Oh, when I saw him come in the door, I said, oh, here's my saviour. But, when Ed came in, he took control of the whole situation. He calmed everything down. He stabilised me, and he took ECG, and that ECG went off to CUH as far as I'm aware. They knew exactly what was going on. He was in contact with central control for the ambulance. But what Ed did was Ed kept me alive, basically, and kept me stable until the ambulance came. And he basically had everything done before the ambulance came, so they hadn't a whole lot to do, only basically put me into the ambulance and take me to CUH.
Yeah, I think he told you the only voice you're to listen to for the next while is mine.
Yes. And that did calm me down. That did. You see, I actually thought I was going to die. I really did think I was going to die. Yeah. And there was two things going through my mind, PJ. The first one was neighbours had come in. My daughter had come in. My daughter was lying behind me, holding me up. And everybody was around. The neighbours actually went and got a defibrillator from the local community centre. And I was saying to myself, well, if this is only indigestion, I'm going to look a right idiot here, which was silly.
But nobody cares. In fact, they'd have been delighted if it was only indigestion.
Of course they would. But when you're in my situation, you feel a bit of a fraud in a way,
Yeah, but you got things under control, but the ambulance was still 20 minutes away. So what do you have to do? You kind of get you get the situation under control. You understand what's going on, and then you have to wait for the ambulance. What do you do while you're waiting?
So as Jim said earlier, so when I walked in, Jim was the textbook model for someone who was having severe chest pain. He was sweating, he was pale, he was clammy, and obviously being supported by his daughter behind him. And then clutching his chest, which is the common sign for someone who is genuinely having a bad chest pain. And the first word out of Jim was, I just think I have indigestion. And I had to kind of play on that to make sure, obviously, Jim was anxious, he was panicking, he was more worried the fact that I would look like a fool if this is. And I said, if it is at the end of the day just indigestion, so be it, you'll be out of hospital within a few hours and everything will be fine. But while I had contacted the ambulance control to get an ETA of the ambulance, which they said they were 20 minutes away, I was able then to put on an ECG monitor then to actually see what was going on with Jim's heart. With that monitor then telling me exactly what was happening, Jim had a massive blockage to his heart. So his right side of his heart was blocked. At that particular time, we don't know how much of a percentage. It was only until later time, until Jim got into the hospital, that he was realised that he had a 100% blockage. So his right coronary artery was 100% blocked. And again, as I said earlier, or Jim said earlier, if Jim decided that, I don't want an ambulance and I just want to rest my head and relax, there's potentially, unfortunately, Jim may have not woken up because his heart could have stopped and he would have known nothing about it. But waiting for the ambulance, we've got the ECG read out. We'd administer aspirin to Jim to try and relieve some of the pressure in his heart, so to thin the blood, and then keeping in contact with the ambulance control then to inform them what was happening. And I informed him then that, Jim, I could confirm that Jim was actually having a heart attack. So when the advanced paramedic and the paramedic arrived, they didn't have to take that 10 or 15 minutes of having to, relieve the situation, find out what's happening, get the story. I was literally able to show the echocardiogram to the advanced paramedics, and then literally was stretcher in the door. Jim was transferred from his bed onto the stretcher, was given IV pain relief and other medications to relieve the pressure in his heart, and then make the very, quick trip to CUH to get onto the cath lab then in Cork.
Yeah, and all worked out really well.
PJ, the care that I got from the ambulance and from CUH was just second to none. I was brought straight into the cath lab and operated on straight away. But that wouldn't have been possible if Critical hadn't speeded up the process. And that's
Critical
exactly
are the people that send Edward out.
Exactly.
Yeah, you've become a huge advocate for them since.
Well, it's not about me, it's about Critical, because what they do is absolutely wonderful, and very few people know that, and very few people know that they are a charity, and that's what I'm just trying to do, is trying to pay back a little bit. They saved my life, PJ. It's simple out. Edward Walsh saved my life. So the least I can do is do a little bit of advocacy for them.
And well able you are. You're fine. You know, it must have been an ordeal for Hilary and indeed for your daughter Lisa too. How were they afterwards?
I'll be quite honest with you, PJ. I was lying on the bed. Lisa was sitting behind me, and Hilary was sitting next to me, and I was on the same bed that my daughter Kate died on 8 years ago.
Oh my!
I would have been in the exact same position, and I would have died in the exact same position that Kate died in 8 years ago, and we were all with her, and that would have been very traumatic for Lisa and Hilary. Twice in a lifetime to come across that.
Jim, what happened to her?
Kate had a disease called Friedreich's ataxia.
Okay.
It's a debilitating disease, and it attacks her heart, and she died from cardiomyopathy in 2017.
What age was she?
She was 31. She was 31.
That's no age. God, and you're there in this. Oh my God, you're there in the same bed, worrying about yourself, and oh my God,
in the exact same position. Yeah. At that stage, I thought I was gone, PJ. I thought I was dead, and it was horrific. Yeah. So I'm so grateful to Critical and Ed Walsh. You've no idea.
I think I can hear it in your voice, but I do. I have absolutely no idea that ever was. Wow. Jim, it's a pleasure speaking to you, and Ed, continue the wonderful work that you and every single first responder did. How did you get into it first, Edward, lastly?
For be honest, it's probably from my family history. My father and my mother were both involved in working with the local general hospital here in Ballina. Spent many of an afternoon in and around the hospital and becoming part of the furniture, seeing ambulances come in and out, and that's where I fortunately put myself. And it's been a great honour to go out and serve my community, because that particular night I'm a volunteer. If I was available, I'm available. If I'm not, I'm not. But thankfully I was. But like Critical is a fantastic asset of what we have. So last year alone, the charity attended 1,308 calls with volunteers that we have under the Critical umbrella. And that is, last year alone, in the first 6 months, the same of this year. Last year we attended 497 calls. This year we're at 815 calls in the same time period, and that's an increase of 47% on calls around. But the charity is doing that by solely of public donations. It's a charity, and our CEO is trying to meet the Minister for Health to sit down and have a chat with her.
That's David Tye, isn't it? I've spoken to him.
David Tye, that's correct. David
used to work in this industry before. Yeah.
He has indeed, and he said to say hello to you, and he's in Dublin today at another very important meeting advocating for the charity. But our main aim for this year and going forward is obviously to look, our plead is for funding, because the charity has a space that it wants to work in, and that's what it's doing right now. But unfortunately that is solely 100% public related donations. And, if we're not around, look, there's obviously an ambulance going to go to every call, but the ambulance service is doing their best at 100%, and everyone is working for it. But volunteers really do their best as well in their community, and that's where we want to help. And that's where our CEO is trying to meet with the Minister for Health and sit down and be that real advocate of what we do, who we are, and, look for funding going forward.
Right. Jim and Edward, thank you both, and continued good health and better health to yourself, Jim. Thank you very much. 0818 96 96 96, criticalcharity.ie. It could have ended up so different if he'd gone to bed that night and decided to try and sleep it off, as you might. He probably wouldn't be here now.
Cork's 96 FM.